Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses, a 1,000-year-old sorcerer so powerful that the entire Jujutsu Kaisen world was built around the question on whether or not he could be beaten by anyone. But can he beat Gen 3's water starter? Today we will find out the answer to this age-old question: who would win the fight to the death? Let's first analyze Sukuna's feats and break it down. He's regarded as the most powerful sorcerer of the Heian era, the so-called golden age of Jujutsu, which means that he scales to basically every feat in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse, or at least above it. He slaughtered thousands and was known as the king of curses, with a shit ton of mouths and extra hands and extra body parts, I'm sure. He was able to cast more stuff, like, I don't know, more domains and shit. Let's talk about his curse techniques. Malevolent Shrine is his domain expansion, and unlike most domain expansions, it manifests directly in the real world without a need for a barrier. Within a 200-meter radius, Sukuna can instantly unleash devastating slashes, Dismantle, which cuts through anything, and Cleave, which specifically targets and destroys cursed energy users. After he finishes using these two Dismantle and Cleave attacks, he's now able to use Divine Flame, which can launch explosive arrows that unleash thermonuclear level energy, causing near firebomb explosions and reducing foes to ash. Now let's talk about Mudkip. Mudkip is a small, quadrupedal, amphibious water-type Pokemon. It has a blue body, a fin on its head, and star-shaped orange gills on its cheeks. It is 1 foot 4 inches tall, and it weighs approximately 16.8 pounds. Despite its small size, Mudkip is a very strong Pokemon. It is capable of moving and crushing boulders larger than itself. Mudkip has been observed attempting to crush its rocks with all its might, even while asleep. That's right, Mudkip can crush rocks, even in its sleep. Let's first talk about sensory perception in JJK. Toji Fushiguro is bounded by a heavenly restriction, which causes him to have increased physical capabilities, but is unable to use cursed energy and see curses and JJK magic. Despite this, he is able to predict and dodge a lot of attacks that he faces when he fights these Jujutsu sorcerers. Mudkip basically does the same thing, because Mudkip's head fin acts as a highly sensitive radar that detects micro changes in air and water currents, which allows it to map out and dodge attacks without even using its eyes. And that basically means that Mudkip can probably dodge a lot of Sukuna's attacks, given that, Toji was able to dodge a lot of like Gojo's attacks, and I guess Sukuna scales to that. But how fast is Mudkip physically moving? Like, what is Mudkip's max speed? We know from anime feats from the Pokemon anime that Ash's Pikachu can reaction dodge a true speed of light solar beam at basically point blank range, which puts Pikachu basically 8 times the speed of light. Let's look at some game stats, right? If Pikachu has a base speed of 90 and Mudkip has a base speed of 40, we can kind of math it out, and using this logic of proportional speed, Mudkip can move at 3.55 times the speed of light. Sukuna's best speed feat is honestly just scaling above Hakari to dodge Kashimo's lightning. Even if we highball Sukuna to sub-relativistic feats, which are around Mach 3000, which is 1% of speed of the light, he couldn't even dodge it completely. And because of that, here's the thing, Mudkip is over 350 times faster than the King of Curses using this logic. Mudkip literally exists in like a different dimension of time compared to what Sukuna exists in. But let's see if Sukuna still has the ability to vaporize and kill Mudkip. When it comes to raw destruction, Sukuna is comfortably city level. His Divine Flame Fuga completely vaporized a multi-kilometer radius in Shibuya, which released an estimated absolutely filthy and disgusting 41.8 petajoules of energy, which is around 10 megaton nuclear warheads. Now let's compare this to the strongest attack Mudkip has. While Sukuna can probably withstand a max geyser from, a Dynamax Mudkip, which is around 3.17 gigajoules. Despite this, there's one other attack that Mudkip can do, which with a bit of mental gymnastics does significantly more damage than, just a gigantic max geyser. Endeavor is a conceptual move that can forcefully reduce the opponent's life to match Mudkip's exact remaining HP. So that means if Mudkip has 1 HP, he's able to use Endeavor against like any Pokemon, like a Cosmic God like Arceus, and knock it down to 1 HP too. Now what is the Pokemon that, like lore-wise, has the most amount of, I guess, energy or defensive energy, you know? I would argue that it is Eternamax Eternatus, which holds over 1033 joules of energy, which Mudkip basically deletes. Registeel is also completely indestructible. Like, his skin is indestructible. And yet, Mudkip is still able to somehow get through it and just kill, or not really kill, just bring him down to 1 HP. So, here's the thing. Mudkip's Endeavor is gonna completely ignore all physical durability. I don't think this is something that Sukuna can defend against. But now let's see if Sukuna can dish out enough damage to, kill a Mudkip. So let's compare durability now. Sukuna's raw physical durability scales to this one main feat, which is during the fight between Gojo Satoru, he is hit with a blue infused black flash punch. Gojo's blue creates a spatial vacuum that drags the opponent into his fist, which kind of like increases the force in the punch itself. If blue pulls an 80 kg Sukuna forward at Mach 50, the base kinetic impact is pretty big, around 11.76 gigajoules. And when you stack Gojo's own physical striking power combined with this force, it kind of surges well into the terajoule range due to, like, I guess the exponential nature of this. Sukuna was able to somehow tank it, even though it kind of knocked him unconscious, but his body didn't explode. He was able to use reverse curse technique to basically like heal himself. And I guess this is also something to consider when we are talking about durability. Whether or not Mudkip can, like, I guess, deal enough damage to offset RCT. We see the same amount of like insane RCT when he regenerates from a Hollow Purple, but I think this idea of raw physical tankiness is bound by Sukuna's brain being intact, and these two feats demonstrate it well. But here's the thing, Mudkip doesn't need to regenerate because it just doesn't take damage. There's a few ways that Mudkip can negate damage. One is Protect. Protect is able to completely negate Judgment, which is the signature move of Arceus, which is literally the god of the Pokemon universe. Like, think about it, like, Protect can negate God's Judgment. But this doesn't put like a hard number on it. So let's look at Draco Meteor instead. The move summons a localized cluster of meteors from outer space, and if a standard shower brings roughly 1,000 metric tons of rock traveling at a conservative atmospheric entry speed of Mach 58, which is around 20,000 meters per second, the kinetic yield is basically, you take the number 2, and then you add like 14 zeros behind that. So yeah, like, it's a shit ton of energy, bruh. And that is 200 terajoules of crushing planetary energy from Draco Meteor. And here's the thing, when Mudkip puts out his Protect, right, that entire 200 terajoules of energy just becomes 0, completely negating everything. So if Mudkip were to use Protect while Sukuna's Cleave, Dismantle, or Divine Flame gets shot at him, yeah, nah, not happening, bruh. But even if you don't believe this, given that, Protect has 20 PP, if I'm not wrong, thanks to Pokemon Affection, if Mudkip loves its trainer enough, it can survive any lethal blow with this idea that Mudkip toughed it out so you wouldn't feel sad. And all Pokemon can basically do this if you're friendly enough to them, I guess. And well, Protect doesn't fully defend against things like Z moves, but this mechanic prevents them from dying from Z moves and suggests that they are able to tank Z moves. Like 10 million volts of electricity from Pikachu's signature Z move. But if you really want to look at the higher end of Z moves, look at Black Hole Eclipse, which is the dark type Z move. Theoretically, a black hole around that size that you can see through animations would output around 91 vigintillion joules of supernova scale energy, and Mudkip is able to somehow tank that. This is far leagues beyond whatever amount of energy Sukuna can even output. And to make matters worse for Sukuna, if Mudkip has the hidden ability Damp, it prevents all explosive moves and techniques from triggering on the battlefield. So if Sukuna tries to spark his Divine Flame, Mudkip will just I guess, prevent it from happening with his special ability. So in conclusion, how would this fight probably end? Let's use some even if comparisons. The first of which is the ultimate wall, where Mudkip just stands there and tanks every attack Sukuna has because he can literally just use Protect to block 200 terajoules of force, rely on its affection mechanic if Sukuna is somehow able to go above protect, which can tank up to 91 Vigintillion joules with this stupid ass affection mechanic, and also, just prevent Sukuna from, I guess, exploding anything. Next, Mudkip can probably dodge every single of Sukuna's attacks, given that it can move at 3.55 times the speed of light, whereas Sukuna can't even hit 1% of the speed of light. So Mudkip can probably just like dodge every single cleave and dismantle that comes out using his fin and his extreme speed, even if you take away all his like defensive bullshit. Next, Mudkip can probably let itself be brought down to 1 HP, either by like, I don't know, holding a focus sash or just like, I don't know, tanking shit. Which can trigger its faster than light reaction speed and just like delete Sukuna's life force with like Endeavor, and I don't know, just like bite it or like shoot like water gun at it, and then Sukuna just dies, bruh. And even if you don't believe that this could happen, given that Mudkip's Max Geyser has enough energy to kind of like launch something into space, you can just make Sukuna into like cars from JoJo Part 2 and just launch Sukuna into space. So I guess healing factor doesn't really matter here. Sukuna is just launched into space and it's just in space, bro. And with that, that is how Mudkip can destroy Sukuna in a fight. Please like and sub. Thank you.